Wife abandoned on wedding day returns years later, with triplets who looked just like him. Emily Thompson was ready to start a new life in Denver after 6 long years. Her return to the city she had left in tears wasn't by choice but necessity, her grandmother's passing, and the inheritance of a property that needed settling. It was at the altar of St. Mary's Cathedral that her world had fallen apart. Nathan Miller, heir to the largest construction company in the region, and her boyfriend of 5 years, simply never showed up. The whispers of the guests still echoed in her memory. The humiliation was complete when the best man handed her a cold note. "I can't do this. Forgive me." At that moment, Emily swore she would never set foot in Denver again. "Mom, are we there yet?" asked Ethan, the most restless of the 3 red-headed boys, identical except for their distinct personalities. "Almost, sweetheart. Just half an hour more," Emily replied, adjusting the rearview mirror to glance at the triplets who would turn 6 next month. William, the most observant, already had his nose pressed against the window, absorbing every detail of the changing landscape. Noah, the calmest, remained engrossed in his picture book. The 3 were the spitting image of their father. With the same piercing green eyes and red hair Emily had once learned to love, and later feared every time she looked at her sons. The highway leading to Denver was more modern now, with new, expanded sections. Emily felt her heart race with every mile. 6 years ago, she had taken the same road in the opposite direction, emotionally shattered and carrying a life inside her, or rather, 3 lives she hadn't even known existed at the time. "Mrs. Thompson, are you sure you want to stay in the big house?" Mrs. Margaret asked over the phone when Emily called to say she was arriving. "I can prepare that downtown apartment your grandmother owned." "No, Margaret. We need space for the boys. We'll stay in the Cherry Creek house. We'll be there before lunch." The housekeeper, who had served her family for over 30 years, was one of the few who knew the whole truth. She had helped Emily pack her things that fateful night, when the young woman couldn't even stop crying long enough to fold her own clothes. As she entered the city limits, Emily automatically took the route that avoided passing near the headquarters of Miller Construction. The mirrored building symbolized the empire built by 3 generations of the family that had almost become hers. Ironically, there were now 3 little Millers in her car, though none officially carried their father's last name. "It's different from New York, isn't it, Mom?" observed William, always attentive. "Yes, sweetheart, it's smaller, quieter." "Are there playgrounds here?" Ethan immediately wanted to know. "Lots, and there's one really close to the house we're staying in." "What about school? Did you find a school for us?" Noah asked, finally looking up from his book. Emily took a deep breath. School enrollment would be her first challenge. She had researched schools far from where she imagined the Millers might be, but in a city like Denver, their paths would inevitably cross at some point. "Yes, I found one. You start on Monday." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now back to the story. Her grandmother's house remained almost untouched, as if time had stood still. Emily's chest tightened as she opened the gate. This was where she had spent the best summers of her childhood, where she had met Nathan, at 17 during a charity gala her grandmother hosted yearly, and where she had planned every detail of the wedding that never happened. The boys ran to the vast garden as Mrs. Margaret appeared at the door, her eyes brimming with tears. "My goodness, how you've grown!" the woman exclaimed, hugging Emily tightly. "They look just like—" "I know," Emily gently interrupted her. "Believe me, I know." During lunch, Emily explained to her sons that they would stay in Denver for a few weeks, maybe months, until they could settle the sale of the house and other matters related to the inheritance. What she didn't mention was her new job as marketing director at a local tech company, a position she had earned after years of hard work in New York. "What about Daddy in heaven?" Ethan asked innocently, making Emily nearly choke on her juice. That's how he referred to the father he had never known. Emily had told the boys their father had gone to heaven before they were even born, a lie that started when they were too young to understand the truth and now seemed impossible to undo. "What about him, sweetheart? Did he live here?" The question made Mrs. Margaret's eyes widen behind her glasses. "Yes, he lived here," Emily replied, feeling the weight of the lie grow heavier. But it was a long time ago. After lunch, while the boys explored the backyard, Emily and Margaret talked in the kitchen. "Is Nathan still in town?" Emily asked, trying to sound casual as she put away the dishes. "Yes, he took over as president of Miller Construction after his father had a stroke about 3 years ago. He married that girl, Victoria, the senator's daughter, but they divorced soon after. No children." Emily absorbed the information in silence. Nathan was single again. Not that it mattered. The hatred she had felt in the early years had turned into a painful indifference. Her only concern was keeping the boys away from him. "And Mrs. Barbara?" she asked, referring to Nathan's mother, a cold and calculating woman who had never hidden her disapproval of her son's relationship with a girl without the right social standing. Still ruling over everyone and everything. For even after her husband's stroke, they say she's the one really controlling Robert, and by extension Nathan too. The next day, after a restless night, Emily took the boys to explore the neighborhood. She showed them the playground, the corner, bakery where she would buy fresh bread every morning, and finally the school they would attend. Lincoln Elementary School was small, welcoming, and most importantly, located on the opposite side of town from the elite school Nathan had likely attended. Emily had researched carefully. "I like it here, Mom," Ethan exclaimed, always the first to adapt. "There are so many books," Noah observed approvingly. "The desks are colorful," William noted, always attentive to details. The principal, Mrs. Susan, greeted them warmly and gave them a tour. Emily filled out the enrollment forms, hesitating only at the father's name field, which she left blank. "I'm a single mother," she explained briefly, using the phrase that had become her mantra over the years. "We completely understand," the principal replied with a kind smile. "We have many families like yours. Don't worry." The weekend passed, quickly with unpacking, necessary shopping, and outings to familiarize the boys with the city. Emily consciously avoided certain areas, mapping routes that minimized any chance of running into acquaintances, especially the Miller family. By Monday, the boys were excited for their first day of school. Dressed in new uniforms and matching backpacks, only the colors were different, Emily's way of telling them apart, they bounced their way to the car. "Behave well, listen to your teacher, and make friends," Emily instructed as she drove them to school. "I'll be here right at pickup time sharp." She left them at the door with kisses and hugs, feeling that tightness in her heart that all mothers feel when they see their children growing up. Then she headed to her first day at her new job. Tech America was a growing startup, occupying an entire floor in a modern office building. As the marketing director, Emily would have a team of 8 people under her supervision and the responsibility of expanding the company's presence in the national market. The day flew by with introductions, meetings, and getting familiar with ongoing projects. When she checked the clock, there were only 20 minutes left to pick up the boys. "See you tomorrow, everyone," she said in a hurry. "I need to pick up my kids from school." The traffic was more congested than she had anticipated, making her arrive right at dismissal time. Dozens of children poured out of the gates, some meeting their parents, others heading to the school bus. Emily parked the car and walked to the gate, scanning for her son's red hair. She spotted William first, then Noah, and finally Ethan, chatting excitedly with their teacher. She waved and the boys ran toward her. That's when she saw him. Nathan Miller was standing across the street, staring intently at the triplets running toward her. His face was pale, as if he had seen a ghost, or rather 3 identical ghosts, miniature versions of himself as a child. Time seemed to freeze. The sounds of the school faded away. For an endless second, Emily and Nathan's eyes met for the first time in 6 years. She reacted on instinct, gathering the boys quickly. "Come on, we're in a hurry," she said, practically pushing them into the car, her legs trembling. "Mum, do you know that man?" William asked, ever observant. He was staring at us a lot. "No, I don't," she lied, starting the car with shaky hands. "Buckle up." In the rearview mirror, she saw Nathan still standing in the same spot, now with his phone in hand. Probably taking pictures, she thought, a chill running down her spine. The reunion she had feared for so long had happened, and now it was only a matter of time before the truth came out. At home, Emily tried to act normal, asking the boys about their first day of school while preparing a snack. Inside, however, her mind was racing with worry. "The teacher is really nice," Ethan said. "She let us sit together." "And there's a fish tank in the classroom with colorful fish," Noah added. "One boy asked why we look the same," William said. "I told him it's because we're identical triplets." Emily smiled, trying to focus on their stories while obsessively checking her phone, waiting for the call or message she knew would come. At 8 in the evening, when the boys were already bathed and watching a cartoon before bed, the doorbell rang. Emily's heart pounded. It was too early to be him, she thought, probably a neighbor or a delivery, but when she opened the door, there stood Nathan Miller, still in his suit and tie, likely straight from work. Older, with a few grey strands at his temples, but still devastatingly handsome as in his youth. "We need to talk," he said, his voice the one Emily had tried to forget for years. "We have nothing to talk about," she replied, trying to close the door. Nathan stopped. "Get with his foot. Those boys, they're mine, aren't they?" The question hung in the air like a bomb about to explode. Emily felt her blood boil. "Now you want to know, 6 years later." "I didn't know," Nathan raised his voice. "You never told me you were pregnant." "Liar," Emily hissed, keeping her voice low so the boys wouldn't hear. "I sent you letters, emails, left messages with your secretary. All of them returned, ignored or blocked." Nathan looked genuinely confused. "I never received any of this. Never." "Please, leave," Emily asked, her voice trembling. "The boys are awake and I don't want them to see you. Don't they know who I am?" The question came out like an accusation. "To them, their father is dead," Emily replied coldly. It was easier to explain than to say they were abandoned before they were even born. Nathan's expression shifted between anger and pain. "This isn't over. They're my sons. I have rights." "Rights?" Emily laughed bitterly. "You lost any rights when you chose not to show up at our wedding. Now, if you don't leave immediately, I'll call the police." Nathan took a step back, adjusting his tie in a nervous gesture Emily knew well. "My lawyers will be in touch tomorrow," he finally said. "We have a lot to settle." When she closed the door, Emily leaned against it and slid to the floor, tears finally flowing freely. 6 years of lost fatherhood, and now Nathan wanted to walk into the boys' lives as if he had any claim. The very idea infuriated her, but a persistent voice in the back of her mind reminded her, the boys deserve to know their father. "You lied to protect them, but how long will that protection be good for?" Wiping her tears, Emily stood up. The boys needed to go to bed, and she had a long day ahead. The battles to come would demand all her strength. The next morning, Emily woke to the doorbell ringing insistently. She threw on a robe over her pajamas and rushed to answer before the noise woke the boys. An elegant woman with perfectly dyed hair and expensive attire stood at her doorstep. Barbara Miller, her almost mother-in-law, looked like she'd aged 20 years since Emily last saw her. "You walk into my home, abandon my son at the altar, and now have the audacity to show up with 3 children?" the woman snapped without even a greeting. "What do you want? Money?" "Good morning to you too, Mrs. Miller," Emily replied, keeping her composure. "I want nothing from your family. I'm here to settle my grandmother's estate, and once that's done, I'll return to New York with my children." "My grandchildren, you mean?" Barbara corrected, trying to peer over Emily's shoulder. "Nathan showed me the pictures. They look just like him as a boy. They're my children, mine alone. Your son gave up any claim to them when he abandoned me." Barbara let out an exasperated sigh. "It was for the best. You never would have been the right wife for a Miller. No education, no family." "I had a college degree and a grandmother who loved me," Emily interrupted. "That was more than enough. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to get my boys ready for school." "This isn't over," Barbara warned, adjusting her designer purse on her arm. "Nathan is determined to be part of those children's lives, and the Millers always get what they want." When the woman left, Emily closed the door, feeling a mix of anger and dread. The day had barely begun and she was already facing a battle. How could she keep up the father-in-heaven charade with Nathan and Barbara, so determined to force their way into the boys' lives? She decided she needed legal protection. After dropping the kids off at school, she drove straight to the office of Michael Bennett, a college friend who had become a respected family law attorney. "Can they really do this?" she asked after explaining the situation. Demand. Custody or visitation after 6 years of complete absence. Michael removed his glasses and sighed. Emily, legally, if he proves paternity, yes, he can file for parental rights. But there are factors in your favor. The prolonged absence, the fact that you tried to contact him about the pregnancy. What if he claims he never knew? That he never got my messages? Then we'd have to prove he was notified. Do you have any evidence? Receipts for certified mail, email confirmations? Emily bit her lip. I have some saved emails, and his secretary at the time knew me well. She could testify that she received my calls. Good. Let's gather all that. Meanwhile, I suggest you think seriously about how to handle this situation regarding the children. If a DNA test confirms what's already obvious, they'll eventually learn the truth. The truth. The words weighed on Emily like lead. How would she explain to her children that their father wasn't dead, but alive and living in the same city? How would she justify years of lies, even if told with the best intentions? When picking up the boys from school, Emily felt relieved not to see Nathan nearby. Maybe he had decided to act through the proper legal channels, instead of confronting her directly. Mom, the teacher said there's a parent meeting on Friday, William said as they got into the car. We have to present our family, Ethan added, excitedly. Can we bring pictures? Emily felt a lump in her throat. Of course, sweetheart. We can pick out some pictures of us. And of Daddy in heaven? Noah asked innocently. Emily hesitated, her eyes fixed on the road. Let's see what we can find, okay? That night, after putting the boys to bed, Emily searched her laptop until she found the folder she had carefully kept hidden, evidence. Inside were all the emails she had sent Nathan about the pregnancy, screenshots of messages sent through social media, all unanswered, and even a scanned copy of the certified letter she had sent to his office, which had been returned stamped refused by recipient. The question that wouldn't leave her mind was, did Nathan really not know, or was he just pretending ignorance to avoid responsibility for 6 years of abandonment? As she finished the portfolio to send to Michael, her phone rang. Unknown number. Hello, Emily, it's Nathan. Her heart raced. How did you get my number? Does it matter? His voice sounded tired. We need to talk civilly, for the boys' sake. I said everything I needed to say yesterday. Emily, please, just hear me out. I'm willing to take a DNA test to confirm paternity, and then I want to meet my sons. I'm not asking for custody. I just want to be part of their lives. 6 years. Later? The bitterness was clear in her voice. I truly didn't know about them, Nathan insisted. Believe it or not, I only found out yesterday when I saw them leaving school. Impossible. I sent dozens of messages, which I never got. Nathan interrupted. Emily, you know my mother. She's controlling. A heavy silence fell as the implication of those words sank in. Barbara Miller had access to her son's office, his mail, his secretary. Are you saying your mother intercepted all my attempts to contact you? I can't prove it, but yes, that's what I suspect. She never accepted our relationship. I imagine when she found out about the pregnancy, she did everything to keep me in the dark. The possibility had never occurred to Emily. She had always assumed Nathan simply didn't care, that he had chosen to ignore her. Even if that's true, she finally replied, it doesn't change the fact that you abandoned me at the altar, that you decided not to marry me at the last minute. I know, and there hasn't been a day I haven't regretted it. Nathan's voice cracked. It was the biggest mistake of my life. Why? The question that had haunted her for 6 years finally escaped. Why didn't you show up, Nathan? A long sigh on the other end of the line. Can we talk about this in person? It's complicated. I deserve to know why I was humiliated, in front of everyone I love. Another silence then. My mother threatened to disinherit me. He said he'd cut off my access to the company, to the family fortune, to everything. I was young, cowardly, and financially dependent. I panicked. The brutal honesty of the confession stunned Emily. So you chose the money. I took the easy way out, Nathan admitted, and I've lived with that shame ever since. Emily closed her eyes, absorbing those words. Part of her wanted to scream, another part wanted to cry. After a few seconds, she replied, "Tomorrow, after 6 p.m. we can talk after I pick up the boys from school. But not here at home. Meet me at the cafe in Cherry Creek Mall near the food court." "I'll be there, thank you, Emily." After hanging up, Emily remained motionless for a long time, staring at the ceiling. The possibility that Nathan truly hadn't known about the children changed everything, or nothing, depending on how you looked at it. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps those of us just starting out. Now, continuing. The next morning, Emily called Michael and updated him about her conversation with Nathan. "If he really didn't know about the kids, that shifts things a bit," the lawyer remarked. "But we still need to protect your interests and, above all, the boys' well-being. I suggest any visitation agreement be gradual and supervised at first." At work, Emily struggled to focus. Her team noticed her low spirits during the morning meeting, but chalked it up to the natural stress of her new role. When she picked up the boys from school, her heart nearly stopped when she saw Nathan standing across the street again. This time, though, he simply gave a discreet wave, making no move to approach. "That man's there again," William observed. "Ever attentive. He waved at you, Mum." "He's an acquaintance," Emily replied vaguely. "Come on, we need to go home and get cleaned up before heading out again." "We're going out?" "Where?" Ethan asked, excited at the prospect. "The mall. I need to pick up a few things and you can play in the play area for a bit." At 6:15 p.m., Emily and the triplets arrived at the designated cafe. Nathan was already there, his fingers drumming nervously on the table. When he saw them, he sprang to his feet, his eyes fixed on the boys. "Stay here at the table. I'm just going to talk to that man over there," Emily told her sons, handing them tablets to keep them occupied. "Don't leave this spot, understand?" All three nodded, already absorbed in their games. Emily walked over to the table where Nathan waited and sat down. "Hi," he said, clearly nervous. They're perfect." "They are," Emily replied curtly. "And they've been just fine without a father so far." Nathan tore his gaze from the boys to look at Emily. "I want to meet them. I want to be part of their lives. I'm willing to do whatever it takes." "Including a DNA test?" "Of course, though it's obvious they're mine. They look just like I did as a kid." "And what exactly do you expect? For me to just tell them, 'Hey, remember how I said your dad was in heaven? Well, he's right over there,'" Nathan sighed. "I know it won't be easy, but we can take it slow. First introduce me as a friend, then—" "A friend?" Emily interrupted. "How do I explain never mentioning this friend before?" "Then introduce me as I am, their father. Kids are more adaptable than we think." "They're adaptable, not stupid," Emily shot back. "How do I explain 6 years of lies?" "By telling the truth. That you thought it was easier for them to believe their father had died than to know he—" Nathan hesitated. "That he abandoned them," Emily finished. "That he didn't know about them," Nathan corrected. "Emily, please, I'm not asking to be father of the year overnight. I just want the chance to know them, to be part of their lives, even if it's little by little." Emily looked at the triplets, absorbed in their games. Nathan followed her gaze. "What are their names?" he asked, his voice thick with emotion. "William, Noah, and Ethan," Emily replied. "William is the most observant and quiet. Noah is the intellectual, he loves books. And Ethan is pure energy, never sits still." A genuine smile lit up Nathan's face. "William was my grandfather's name." "I know. It was the name we'd chosen if we had a boy, remember?" Nathan nodded, his eyes glistening. "Emily, I know. I've made unforgivable mistakes. But don't punish the boys for it. They deserve to know who their father is." Before Emily could answer, William appeared beside the table. "Mom, Ethan's hungry." His curious gaze studied Nathan, who seemed to have stopped breathing. "Hi," William said shyly to the man. "Hi," Nathan replied, his voice nearly breaking. You must be William, right?" The boy's eyes widened in surprise. "How do you know my name?" "Your mom just told me," Nathan answered quickly, throwing a pleading look at Emily. "William, this is a colleague from work, Mr. Nathan," Emily introduced. hating herself for yet another lie. "Come on, let's get you something to eat." "Do you work with my mum?" William asked, furrowing his brow in a way that mirrored Nathan's. "Not exactly, we're old acquaintances," Nathan improvised. "Did you know my dad?" The innocent question landed like a bombshell. Nathan looked at Emily, completely lost. "William, come on, your brothers are waiting," Emily intervened, taking her son's hand. "But Mum—" "Now, William," she insisted, firmer this time. As they walked away, Emily murmured to Nathan, "I need time to think. I'll call you tomorrow." Nathan nodded, his gaze still fixed on the retreating boy. On the way home, William asked, "Mum, why does that man look like us?" Emily nearly swerved the car. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" "He has the same color hair as ours. And when he smiled, he had that dimple just like Ethan's." Emily took a deep breath. Children were far more observant than adults gave them credit for. "It's just a coincidence, honey." "Did he know my dad?" William pressed. "Why do you ask?" "Because when I asked him, he acted weird. And so did you." Emily gripped the steering wheel, feeling cornered. "It's complicated, William. Can we talk about this another time?" "Okay." The silence that followed weighed heavily. Emily knew she was only delaying the inevitable. The truth was starting to slip through the cracks, and soon it would be impossible to contain. At home, while preparing dinner, Emily reflected on her options. She could keep denying the truth, but for how long? The boys would eventually notice the resemblance to Nathan, especially living in the same city. Or she could tell them the truth, outright, risking confusion and hurt. Neither option seemed ideal. After putting the boys to bed, Emily called Nathan. "We need a plan," she said bluntly. William already noticed the physical resemblance. "They're smart," Nathan replied, pride evident in his voice. "Here's what we'll do. You can get to know them gradually, as a family friend first. Meanwhile, we'll do the DNA test to legally establish paternity." "And then?" "Then, we'll see how to proceed. Maybe in a few weeks, when they're more comfortable with you, we can tell them the truth together." The relief in Nathan's voice was palpable. "Thank you, Emily. It's more than I deserve." "I'm not doing this for you," she clarified. "I'm doing it for the boys." "I understand. When can we start?" "Sunday. We can meet at Central Park at 10 a.m. just for an hour. I'll be there." In the following days, Emily consulted a child psychologist about the best way to eventually reveal the truth to her sons. The specialist recommended honesty, but tailored to the children's ages, emphasizing that the priority should be protecting the trust between mother and sons. Sunday came too quickly. Emily felt her stomach churn as she got ready. "Where are we going, Mom?" asked Noah, noticing her unease. "To the park, and we're meeting a friend of mine there." "That man from the mall?" William asked immediately. Emily nearly dropped her hairbrush. "Yes, him, Mr. Nathan." "Is he nice?" Ethan wanted to know. "He's polite," Emily replied, unable to praise the man who had abandoned her, no matter the circumstances. At the park, Nathan was already waiting, on a bench near the playground, holding a medium-sized package. When he saw them, he stood up nervously, running a hand through his hair, just like William did when anxious. "Good morning," he greeted, his eyes shifting between Emily and the boys. "Thank you for coming. Boys, this is Mr. Nathan, friend," Emily introduced reluctantly. "Nathan, these are William, Noah, and Ethan." "Hi, Mr. Nathan," Noah said politely. "Did you bring a present?" Ethan asked, staring at the package. Nathan smiled. "Yes, I brought something for you. Board games. One for each, but you can swap if you want." He handed over the package and the boys eagerly opened it, revealing 3 different games, carefully chosen for their personalities. A strategy game for William, an educational one for Noah, and an action-packed one for Ethan. "How did you to know I'd like this?" Noah asked, surprised by the perfect choice. Nathan glanced at Emily before answering. "Your mom mentioned you like intellectual challenges." The boys thanked him excitedly, and soon were showing him how the park toys worked, while Nathan followed with a grin that stretched from ear to ear. Emily watched from a distance, her feelings torn. On one hand, it hurt to see their father interacting with them for the first time, 6 years too late. On the other, the boys' enthusiasm was contagious. "Do you play soccer, Mr. Nathan?" Ethan asked, holding a small ball. "I do. Want to try some passes?" Soon Nathan and the triplets were playing animatedly, with Emily still keeping her distance, until William approached her. "Mom, Mr. Nathan plays just like Ethan, kinda clumsy." The remark made Emily smile despite herself. Ethan really had inherited his father's lack of coordination. After an hour, as agreed, Emily announced they had to leave. "Already?" Ethan protested. "We have lunch, and then you have homework for tomorrow," she reminded them. "Mr. Nathan, can you come again?" Noah asked. Nathan looked at Emily, waiting for her approval. "We'll see," she replied neutrally. "Now let's go, boys." "Can I talk to you for a minute?" Nathan asked as the kids gathered their toys. They stepped aside. "Thank you for this," he said sincerely. "They're amazing. You've done a wonderful job." "Thank you," Emily replied, feeling the compliment warm her heart despite everything. "When can I see them again?" Emily hesitated. "Maybe next weekend, I'll let you know. And the DNA test? We can do it on Wednesday. I'll go to the lab during lunch with the boys. Can you meet us there?" Nathan nodded. "Emily, do you think you'll ever be able to forgive me?" The question caught her off guard. "I don't know, Nathan. Some wounds are too deep." On Wednesday, as planned, Emily took the boys to the lab during her lunch break. Nathan was already waiting at reception. "Why are we here, Mum?" William asked, ever sharp. "It's just a routine checkup," Emily replied, feeling worse by the minute about the lies. Nathan approached, greeting the boys, who now welcomed him, more familiarly. "Are we getting a test too?" asked Ethan, confused. "Yes, all of us," replied Nathan, looking at Emily as if asking for permission to continue. The attendant called them for the blood draw, and the boys, though a little nervous about the needles, behaved well. Nathan sat beside each one during their turn, talking to distract them from the discomfort. As they left the lab, Noah asked, "Why did Mr. Nathan have to take the test too?" Emily and Nathan exchanged glances. "It's a test to check compatibility," Emily explained vaguely. "Like blood type?" asked William, already showing knowledge beyond his years. "Something like that," Nathan confirmed, equally vague. The results would be ready in 48 hours. Emily left Nathan's contact so the lab could notify him too, though the result was just a formality. The paternity was obvious just by looking at the four of them together. On Friday, Emily got a call from the lab confirming the obvious. Nathan was the biological father of the triplets, with 99.99999% certainty. Minutes later, her phone rang again. "Did you get the results?" asked Nathan, his voice slightly trembling. "Yes, no surprises." "Emily, we need to tell them. I can't keep being just Mr. Nathan, Mum's friend. They're my kids." The selfishness of his comment irritated Emily. "Your kids? Where were you when I spent sleepless nights with 3 sick babies? Where were you for their first steps?" "First words, first day of school." The silence on the other end was his answer. "I'm sorry," Nathan finally said. "You're right. I have no right to demand anything. I just don't want to waste any more time." Emily took a deep breath. "We'll have to do this carefully. I scheduled an appointment with the boys' psychologist on Monday. She can guide us on the best approach." "Us? I can be there?" "Yes. I think it's better if we do this together." For the boys. On Monday, while the triplets were at school, Emily and Nathan met at Dr. Sarah's office, the child psychologist. The truth should be shared clearly, but with their age and emotional maturity in mind, the specialist explained. They'll need time to process the information and ask questions. The most important thing is that you both present a united front, no matter your personal conflicts. "And how do we explain why we lied about their father being dead?" asked Emily, guilt clear in her voice, with honesty suited to their age. "You can say you thought it was the best way to protect them at the time, but now you understand they're ready for the truth." Nathan seemed thoughtful. "And my absence? How do I explain I wasn't there for 6 years?" Again, with age-appropriate honesty, that there was a misunderstanding between you, that you didn't know about the pregnancy and that as soon as you found out about them, you wanted to be part of their lives. The session lasted an hour, with Dr. Sarah giving specific guidance on how to approach the topic, answer possible questions, and handle expected emotional reactions. "When do you think is the best time to do this?" the psychologist asked, at the end. Emily and Nathan exchanged glances. "This weekend," he suggested. "That way they'll have time to process without school pressure." "I agree," said Emily. "Saturday, maybe." The week passed in a blur of anxiety for Emily. At work, her distraction was noticeable. At home, the boys sensed her unease. "Are you sad, Mom?" Ethan asked on Thursday night as she tucked him in. "No, sweetheart, just thoughtful." "Is it because of Mr. Nathan?" William chimed in from the next bed. "Did you guys fight?" "No, we didn't fight." "Why?" "Do you ask?" "Because you act different when he's around. Kind of mad, kind of sad." The sharpness of her eldest son never failed to surprise her. "It's complicated, William. Adults sometimes have complicated stories." "Was he friends with Daddy from heaven?" Noah asked innocently. Emily felt a tightness in her chest. "Actually, let's talk about this on Saturday, okay? Mr. Nathan is coming over, and we have something important to tell you." The curious expressions on her children's faces almost made her reconsider waiting until Saturday, but she followed the psychologist's advice to make the revelation at a planned moment, with ample time for discussion. On Saturday, Nathan arrived promptly at 10 a.m., visibly nervous. Emily had tidied the living room with snacks and juice on the coffee table. Dr. Sarah had suggested creating a warm and informal atmosphere. The boys greeted Nathan with growing excitement. In the few encounters they'd had, they'd already developed a certain bond with him, especially Ethan, who shared his outgoing nature. "Boys, let's sit down," Emily called after a few minutes of casual conversation. "We have something important to talk about." The children settled on the couch, intrigued by the serious tone. Emily and Nathan sat in chairs facing them. "Remember, I told you Mr. Nathan and I have something to share?" Emily began, her mouth dry. "It's about your father." William immediately straightened up, attentive. Noah instinctively grabbed Ethan's hand. You know I've always said your father was in heaven," Emily continued, her voice trembling. "But that's not true. I told you that because I thought it would be easier for you to understand when you were younger." "Daddy didn't die?" Ethan asked, confused. "No, sweetheart, he didn't die." "Then where is he?" William's direct question made Emily glance at Nathan, who now had tears in his eyes. "He's right here," Emily replied softly. 3 pairs of identical eyes widened. "Mr. Nathan is your father," she finished, feeling as if an enormous weight had been lifted from her shoulders. The silence that followed seemed to last an eternity. The boys looked from Emily to Nathan, processing the information. "But you said he was in heaven," Noah was the first to speak, his voice hurt. "I know, sweetheart, and I'm sorry for that. Mommy was wrong not to tell you the truth." "Why did you lie?" William's question was accusatory, cutting Emily deeply. "Because—" She hesitated, looking at Nathan for help. "Because your mom. And I had a very serious problem before you were born," Nathan interjected. "And I didn't know you existed. I only found out about you a few weeks ago when I saw you at school." "You didn't want us?" Ethan's innocent question broke both their hearts. No, that's not it," Nathan replied quickly, kneeling in front of the boys. "I just didn't know you existed. If I had, I would have been there from day one." "How didn't you know?" William pressed, always seeking logical answers. "Didn't Mom tell you?" Nathan looked at Emily, who nodded slightly, encouraging him to tell the truth. "Your mom tried to tell me. She sent messages, tried to reach me, but I never got any of them." "Why not?" Nathan sighed. "It's complicated, but someone in my family kept those messages from reaching me." "Who?" Noah asked. "My mother. Your grandmother." The boys seemed overwhelmed by so much new information. "So we have a grandma?" Ethan asked. "Yes, but—" Nathan didn't know how to explain Barbara's behavior without making her seem like the villain. "She's complicated. We have a lot of people to meet and things to understand," Emily interjected, noticing their growing discomfort. "But the most important thing now is that you know the truth. Mr. Nathan is your father, and he wants to be part of your lives if you want him to." William, always the most suspicious, furrowed his brow. "If you're our father, why don't we live with you too?" The question hit Nathan like a punch. Emily answered, "Because your dad and I aren't married, William. And sometimes when parents aren't married, children live with just one of them, or split their time between both." "Like Ethan in my class?" asked Noah. "He spends 1 week at his mum's and 1 at his dad's." "Something like that," Emily confirmed. "Can I call you Dad?" Ethan's direct question surprised everyone. Nathan swallowed hard, visibly emotional. I'd love that. But I understand if you need time to get used to it." William, always the most cautious, stayed silent, watching. "Does anyone else have questions?" Emily encouraged. "You can ask anything. Mom and your Dad will answer as best we can." "Why didn't you get married?" Noah asked. "All my friends' parents are married." Nathan glanced at Emily, unsure how to respond. "We were going to get married," she said softly. "But there were problems, and it didn't happen." "What problems?" William pressed. "Adult problems," Nathan replied. "I made a big mistake and hurt your mum." "Are you going to live with us now?" Ethan asked, always thinking ahead. "No, sweetheart. Your dad has his own home, and we have ours," Emily explained. "But he can visit you, take you out, and you can come see my place too if you'd like," Nathan added. The conversation continued for over an hour, the boys alternating between direct questions and thoughtful silence. As the psychologist had predicted, their reactions were mixed. Ethan seemed to accept the news most easily. Noah was curious but cautious, and William kept an emotional distance. In the end, they agreed Nathan would return the next day for lunch, giving the boys time to process everything. When Nathan left, Emily sat down with her sons again. "How are you feeling?" she asked gently. "Confused," Noah admitted. "Happy, I think," Ethan said. "Now we have a real dad, not just a dad in heaven." William stayed silent, arms crossed defensively. "And you, William?" Emily touched her eldest son's shoulder lightly. "Why did you lie, Mum?" The hurt in his voice was palpable. Emily felt her eyes fill with tears. "Because I thought it would be easier for you. I thought saying your dad had gone to heaven would be less painful than saying he wasn't around. It was a mistake. And I'm sorry." "And him? Why didn't he want to marry you?" "It's complicated, sweetheart. When we're young, sometimes we make wrong choices out of fear or pressure from others. Your dad did that, but he seems sorry now." "Do you still like him?" William's blunt question caught Emily off guard. "I have complicated feelings about your dad. But that doesn't matter. What matters is you get to know him and decide for yourselves if you want him in your lives." Sunday brought a visibly anxious Nathan, carrying bags of groceries for lunch. "I thought I'd make that lasagna you used to like," he told Emily as he walked in. "If that's okay." The familiarity of the gesture Nathan had always cooked for her when they were dating brought a pang of nostalgia. "Of course. The kitchen's all yours." The boys greeted him differently. Ethan ran to hug him, already calling him Dad. Noah said hello politely, still testing the new word, and William just nodded from the stairs, keeping his distance. "I brought something for you," Nathan said, pulling 3 small photo albums from his bag. "Pictures of me when I was little. Thought you might like to see." The strategy was perfect. Soon the 3 were sitting on the living room rug, flipping through photo albums and laughing at the obvious resemblances. "You had the same nose as me," exclaimed Ethan, pointing to a picture of Nathan at 6 years old. "And the same smile," observed Noah. Even William seemed intrigued, though he kept a neutral expression. In the kitchen, Nathan prepared the lasagna, while Emily arranged the salad. "How do you think they're handling it?" he asked quietly. "Better than I expected. Ethan's already completely adopted you. Noah is curious but cautious. And William will need more time." "He takes after you," Nathan remarked. "Not physically, but in his manner. Analytical. Protective." Emily smiled faintly. "Yeah, he's always been like that, even as a baby. Observing everything, processing, drawing conclusions." The domesticity of the scene didn't go unnoticed by either of them. For a brief moment, it felt like a normal family preparing Sunday lunch. "What are you going to do about your mother?" Emily suddenly asked. "Does she know we're telling the boys the truth?" Nathan sighed. "Yes, and she's not happy. But I made it clear she has no choice. They're my sons, and I want to be part of their lives. Will she want to meet them?" "Probably, but that'll be on our terms, not hers, and only if you agree." Emily nodded, appreciating the respect for her parental authority. Lunch went surprisingly well. Nathan shared stories from his childhood, answered dozens of questions about his likes and skills, and even promised to take the boys to see his office at Miller Construction someday. "Do you have other kids?" William asked abruptly in the middle of a story. The direct question silenced the table. "No," Nathan replied. "You're my only children." "Why didn't you have more after us?" Nathan glanced at Emily before answering. "I got married a few years later, but it didn't last long. And we didn't have kids. Why didn't it last?" William pressed. "William, that's very personal," Emily interjected. "No, it's fine," Nathan said. "I think it didn't work because I never fully got over your mother." The confession hung in the air like a heavy cloud. Emily kept her eyes on her plate, while the boys absorbed the information with puzzled expressions. "Do you still like my mom?" Ethan asked with the innocence of his 6 years. Nathan hesitated. "I'll always respect and admire your mother. She's an incredible person who raised 3 wonderful boys on her own." The diplomatic answer seemed to satisfy the boys, but Emily noticed the evasion. After lunch, while the boys played video games, Nathan helped Emily wash the dishes. "Thank you for this," he said quietly, "for letting me be part of their lives. I'm not doing it for you, I'm doing it for the boys." "I know, but still, thank you." Emily studied him for a moment. Nathan had aged well over the last 6 years, a few wrinkles at the corners of his eyes, some grey at his temples, but he was still the man she'd fallen for in her youth. "What you said at the table, about not getting over." "It was true," Nathan interrupted. "My marriage to Victoria was a mistake from the start. I was trying to move on, do what my family expected, but it never worked." "Nathan, I'm not saying this to pressure you or create expectations," he hurried to add, "just answering our son's question honestly." "Our son." The words felt strange and yet deeply right. In the following weeks, Nathan gradually became part of the boys' routine. He picked them up from Lincoln Elementary on Wednesdays, spent Sunday afternoons with them, and even attended a parent-teacher meeting alongside Emily, sparking whispers among the other parents. The legal recognition of paternity was formalized, with Nathan insisting on paying retroactive child support for the 6 years he had been absent, a sum that Emily reluctantly accepted and put into savings accounts for the children's future. Barbara Miller remained a distant problem. Although Nathan had made it clear she would only meet the grandchildren when Emily approved, the matriarch made a point of voicing her opinions through messages and indirect remarks. "My mother wants to throw a birthday party for the boys next month," Nathan mentioned during one of their family Sundays. Emily frowned. "A party? She barely knows them." "I know. It's her way of trying to buy affection." I said no, obviously. "What are we doing for their birthday?" Emily asked. "They're turning 7 on the 15th. "What do you usually do?" "Normally I throw a small party at home with their closest friends. Nothing extravagant." Nathan nodded. "We can do that. At your place or mine, you choose." The idea of a joint celebration as parents united for the children's sake was both comforting and unsettling for Emily. Part of her still resisted anything that hinted at reconciliation. "At my place," she finally decided. "They feel more comfortable here." "Of course. I can help with the preparations if you'd like." Emily was about to refuse automatically, but reconsidered. The boys would be happy to see their parents cooperating, and Nathan genuinely seemed eager to participate. "Okay, we can plan it together." Nathan's smile lit up his face in a way Emily had forgotten could still affect her. The following Tuesday, while the boys were at school, Emily got a call from the principal. "Mrs. Thompson, this is Principal Susan. We need you to come to the school immediately. Noah has a high fever and seems very unwell." Emily's heart raced. I'm leaving work right now. I'll be there in 20 minutes. After hanging up, she instinctively called Nathan. Noah is sick. I'm heading to the school now. What's wrong with him? The concern in his voice was clear. High fever. I don't have more details yet. I'll meet you at the hospital. Dr. Matthews's pediatric clinic is the best in town. At the school, Emily found Noah in the infirmary, his face flushed and eyes bright with fever. William and Ethan sat beside their brother, visibly worried. Mom, Noah is burning up, William said seriously. Emily touched her middle child's forehead and was alarmed by the heat. We're going to the hospital right now. William, Ethan, grab your backpacks. On the way to the hospital, Noah started complaining of headaches and body aches. Emily drove as fast as she safely could. At the clinic, Nathan was already waiting at the entrance, having used his connections to ensure immediate care. A pediatrician examined Noah, while Emily and Nathan waited anxiously, with William and Ethan sitting quietly in a corner of the waiting room. It seems to be a viral infection, the doctor said after the examination. But I'm concerned about his elevated heart rate. We'll run some additional tests. The next few hours were a blur of worry. Noah underwent blood tests, a chest x-ray, and even an electrocardiogram. I'm scared, Nate, Emily admitted while waiting for the results, using his nickname for the first time in years. Nathan instinctively wrapped an arm around her shoulders. He'll be okay. Noah is strong. When the doctor returned, his expression was serious. We've identified the viral infection and started the appropriate treatment, but we also noticed something in the cardiac tests that needs attention. What? Emily asked, involuntarily gripping Nathan's hand. There are signs of a minor anomaly in the mitral valve. Nothing serious at first glance, but something that will need monitoring. Nathan paled. Congenital heart disease. The doctor nodded. It's a mild condition, but we'll need regular follow-ups with a pediatric cardiologist. Do you have a family history? Nathan swallowed hard. Yes. My father had heart problems his whole life, and I was diagnosed with mitral valve prolapse at 25. Emily looked at him, shocked. You never told me. At the time, it didn't seem important. It's a mild condition that only requires annual checkups. The doctor made notes. We'll also check the other boys as a precaution. Congenital heart conditions can affect multiple children, especially in cases of multiples. Emily felt the weight of guilt. If she'd known about Nathan's family history, she could have monitored the boys since birth. Will Noah need to stay? Hospitalized? She asked, returning to her immediate concern. At least for 24 hours to control the fever and start treatment for the infection. Then we'll schedule a cardiology follow-up. The three spent the night at the hospital. Emily and Nathan took turns by Noah's side, while William and Ethan were taken home by Mrs. Margaret. In the hospital room, as they watched Noah finally sleeping after his fever broke, Nathan broke the silence. I'm sorry I never told you about my heart condition. You didn't know it would be relevant, Emily replied, too exhausted to hold on to resentment. Still, if I'd been around, maybe we could have caught this sooner. No use dwelling on it now. What matters is we're here and Noah will get the care he needs. Nathan looked at her with admiration. You're amazing, you know that. Raised 3 wonderful boys alone, built an impressive career and still handle all this with a strength that leaves me speechless. The sincere praise left Emily at a loss. Thank you, she finally said. I just did what I had to do. The next morning, with Noah responding well to treatment, the doctor allowed Nathan to take William and Ethan for preventive heart screenings while Emily stayed with their hospitalized son. Dad, will I have to stay in the hospital too? Ethan asked nervously as they walked to the cardiology department. It was the first time Nathan heard one of his sons call him Dad without hesitation, and the effect was overwhelming. No, son. These are just tests to make sure your heart is okay. Is Noah's heart broken? William wanted to know. It's not broken, just has a small difference the doctors need to watch. The tests revealed William also had the same mild anomaly, though completely asymptomatic. Ethan, however, showed no signs of the condition. When they returned to Noah's room, they found him sitting up, chatting animatedly with Emily. Look, Noah's better, Ethan exclaimed, running to hug his brother. Easy, he's still recovering, Emily gently warned. Nathan approached the bed and ruffled Noah's hair. "How are you feeling, champ?" "Better, Dad," the boy replied, the word Dad sounding more natural each time. Nathan exchanged a glance with Emily and quietly informed her, "William has the same condition but no symptoms. Ethan's clear." Emily nodded, taking it in. "The doctor said Noah can go home tomorrow, and the cardiologist appointment is set for next week." That night, Nathan insisted Emily go home to rest and be with the other boys, while he stayed at the hospital with Noah. "Are you sure?" she asked, reluctant to leave her son. "Absolutely. You need rest, and the boys need their mother. I'll stay with Noah and call if anything changes." Trusting Nathan with their son's care was something new for Emily. For 6 years, she had been solely responsible for the triplets' well-being. Sharing that responsibility, especially during a crisis, was both a relief and a challenge. When she got home, she found William and Ethan in the living room, drawing under Mrs. Margaret's supervision. "How's Noah doing, Mom?" William asked immediately. "Better, he'll be home tomorrow." "Did Dad stay with him?" Ethan asked. "Yes, he stayed overnight." The boys exchanged curious glances. "What is it?" Emily asked, noticing their look. "It's nice having both a dad and a mum," Ethan commented innocently. "Before it was just you doing everything." The simple remark struck Emily deeply. It was true. She had carried the weight of parenting alone for so long that she barely remembered what it was like to share responsibilities. The next day, Noah was discharged, and Nathan brought him home. The following days were an adjustment, with Nathan practically moving into the guest room to help care for Noah and manage the other boys' routines. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us as we're just starting out. Now back to the story. The forced closeness from Noah's illness brought up memories and feelings Emily had tried to bury. Nathan in the kitchen making breakfast, helping with homework, reading bedtime stories, scenes of a family life they'd never had but were now experiencing under unexpected circumstances. "You don't have to stay here all the time," Emily said one night after the boys had gone to bed. "Noah's recovering well." Nathan, sitting on the porch with a cup of tea, looked at her seriously. "I like being here, being part of their routine, being a dad." Emily sat in the chair beside him. "You're doing a good job, you know, better than I expected." "Thanks. I'm trying to make up for lost time, though I know that's impossible." They sat in silence for a moment, listening to the crickets and watching the starry sky, just like they had years ago when they were dating. "What did your mother think about you practically moving in here?" Emily asked, breaking the silence. Nathan laughed dryly. "She's furious. First, because I'm succumbing to the manipulations of a woman who, according to her, wanted to marry for money. And second, because I'm neglecting the company to play house." Emily rolled her eyes. "She never changes, does she?" "Actually, she has. She's gotten worse," Nathan sighed. "Since my father's stroke, she's clung to control of the family and the business like it's oxygen. I've been letting it happen, to be honest." "And now?" "Now I have 3 kids to think about. 3 reasons to question her decisions and take charge of my own life." Emily studied him thoughtfully. Nathan seemed different, more mature, more decisive. "You've changed," she remarked. He smiled faintly. "Late fatherhood does that too." A man. The following week, William and Noah had their first cardiologist appointment. The specialist confirmed the initial diagnosis. Both had a mild mitral valve anomaly, inherited genetically, which would require regular monitoring but wouldn't restrict their normal activities. "They can live perfectly normal lives," the doctor assured them. "We'll just need annual checkups and to watch for certain symptoms." On the way home, Nathan seemed thoughtful. "What's on your mind?" Emily asked. "How a hereditary heart condition can bring a family together." Emily smiled slightly. "That's an optimistic way to look at it." "I'm trying to be more optimistic." Nathan hesitated before continuing. "Emily, I know our history is complicated, but these days together, taking care of the boys, made me realize how much I've lost and how much we can still build." "Nathan, I'm not proposing anything," and he quickly added, "I just want to say that no matter what happens between us, I'm committed to the boys, and I hope we can build, if not a reconciliation, at least a friendship." Emily reflected on his words. The anger she had felt for years had significantly faded in recent weeks, replaced by a cautious warmth. "Friendship is a good start," she finally replied. The preparations for the triplets' birthday were underway. Nathan insisted on contributing. Not just financially, but also with planning and organizing. Emily gradually allowed him to take on more responsibilities. "The boys each want a cake in their favorite flavor," she told him during a planning meeting in the kitchen. "Chocolate for William, strawberry for Noah, and vanilla for Ethan." 3 different cakes. Nathan laughed. "Why not one big cake with 3 flavors?" "I tried that last year. It was a disaster. They want their own cake identities," as Ethan explained. Nathan smiled, delighted by the little details he was learning about his sons. "And the decorations? 3 different themes too?" "No, we agreed on one theme, superheroes, but each chose their favorite." As they discussed the details, Nathan's phone rang. Seeing the name on the screen, his expression hardened. "My mother. I need to take this, sorry." Emily nodded, stepping away to give him privacy, but she could still catch parts of the conversation. "No, Mom, I'm not coming home now." "Yes, I'm still at Emily's." "No, it's not a business decision, it's a personal one." "I don't care what the board thinks. If I have to, I'll step down as CEO." When he hung up, Nathan looked exhausted. "Trouble?" Emily asked. "Barbara being Barbara. She's threatening to call a board meeting to remove me as CEO of Miller Construction if I keep neglecting my responsibilities." "Can she do that?" "Technically, yes. My father is still the majority shareholder, and she has power of attorney." "Since his stroke?" Nathan sighed. "But honestly, I'm starting to realize that maybe being CEO of Miller Construction isn't what I really want for my life." The revelation surprised Emily. "But it's your family's business, the legacy your grandfather built. That's turned into a gilded cage, with my mother as the warden." Nathan shook his head. "Over the last few years, I've been working on some side projects. Sustainable construction consulting, mostly. It's something I'm far more passionate about than managing the company's bureaucracy." "And would that be financially viable?" Nathan smiled. "Surprisingly, yes. I already have major clients and a small team working on projects. It wouldn't be as lucrative as being CEO, but it'd be more than enough to live comfortably and secure the boys' future." Emily looked at him with newfound admiration. The Nathan she'd known years ago would never have considered leaving the safety of the family business for his own dream. On the eve of the boys' birthday, as they put the finishing touches on the preparations, Nathan arrived with a determined expression. "I did something today that'll probably infuriate my mother, but it needed to be done." "What?" Emily asked, curious. "I officially registered the boys with my last name. They're now William, Noah, and Ethan Thompson Miller." Emily was speechless. It was a significant step, not just symbolically, but legally. "Are you sure?" she finally asked. "Absolutely, they're my sons. They deserve to carry my name." Nathan hesitated before adding, "If you agree, of course. I know I should have consulted you first, but—" "It's fine," interrupted Emily, surprising herself with her reaction. "Actually, I think it's the right thing to do." Nathan's smile lit up his face. "Thank you. I prepared documents so the boys can be included as legal heirs too. No matter what happens with the construction company or with me, they'll be protected." The gesture moved Emily deeply. It wasn't just a legal acknowledgement, but a real commitment to their children's future. The birthday party was an absolute success. The house was decorated with a superhero theme. 3 different cakes took center stage on the table, and dozens of children ran around the backyard under the supervision of hired monitors. For the adult guests, mostly parents of the boys' friends and some of Emily's co-workers, Nathan's presence as co-host sparked curiosity. The father who returned was the subject of discreet glances and whispers. "Everyone's talking about us," Emily commented while serving punch to some guests. "Let them talk," Nathan replied calmly. "What matters is that the boys are happy," and they were. William, Noah, and Ethan ran around proudly, thrilled to have both parents present at their birthday for the first time. When it was time to sing Happy Birthday, Nathan and Emily stood side by side behind the boys, who positioned themselves in front of their respective cakes. A hired photographer captured the moment, the first official photo of the complete family. After the song, as the children helped themselves to cake, Ethan asked the question many adults were probably wondering. Now that Dad lives almost here at home, are you guys going to get married? The innocent question brought a momentary silence among the nearby adults. Emily felt her face flush. "It's not quite like that, sweetheart," she explained gently. "Your dad is here temporarily to help while Noah fully recovers. But it'd be easier if we all lived together, wouldn't it?" the boy insisted. "Then we wouldn't have to go to Dad's house on weekends." Nathan crouched to his son's level. "Grown-up things are complicated, Ethan. Your mom and I are getting to know each other again, learning to be friends and parents together. That takes time." The answer seemed to satisfy the boy for the moment, and he soon ran off to play with his friends. But the question lingered in the air between Emily and Nathan. By the end of the party, when only close family remained, Mrs. Margaret approached Emily in the kitchen. "Never thought I'd live to see this," the housekeeper remarked. "You, Nathan, and the boys together, like a family." "We're not exactly a family, Margaret," Emily corrected softly. The elderly woman gave her a knowing look. "Aren't you? Look at that living room." Nathan was sitting on the floor with the three boys, helping them assemble one of their gifts, a complex building set. All four were laughing together, with William noticeably more relaxed around his father than in those first few weeks. "Things are never that simple," Emily murmured. "And who said they have to be?" Margaret countered. "Life's complicated, my dear, but sometimes, even through the mess, we find our way back to where we're meant to be." The weeks. After the party, Nathan finally returned to his own home. The boys, accustomed to his constant presence, felt the absence. "Why doesn't Dad live here anymore, Noah asked during dinner. "He never lived here, sweetheart," Emily gently corrected. "He was just helping while you were sick." "But it was nice having him here," Ethan chimed in. "He made pancakes in the morning and played video games with us, and told different stories than yours," William added. Emily smiled faintly. "Do you miss him?" Three red-headed heads nodded simultaneously. "Is he coming back tomorrow?" asked Ethan hopefully. "Not to stay, but he's taking you to the movies, remember?" The visitation arrangements were working well. Nathan would pick up the boys on Wednesdays after school for a special activity, and they spent entire Sundays with him. Occasionally, Emily would join in these outings, creating moments of family that, though temporary, felt increasingly natural. The following Monday, Emily received an unexpected call at work. "Emily, it's Nathan. I need a favor." The tension in his voice alarmed her immediately. "What happened?" "My father had another stroke, worse this time. I'm at the hospital with my mother and the situation is complicated. Could you pick up the boys from school today? It was supposed to be my day, but—" "Of course, no problem. How's your father?" Nathan sighed heavily. "Not good. The doctors aren't optimistic." "I'm so sorry, Nate. Is there anything I can do?" "You're already doing it. Thank you for taking care of the boys. I'll try to stop by later to see them, if it's not too late. Don't worry about the time, and good luck." When she picked up the boys from school, Emily explained that their grandfather was sick and that their father needed to stay at the hospital. "Can we visit Grandpa?" asked Noah. The question caught Emily off guard. The boys had never met their paternal grandparents, and she wasn't sure if this was the right time for a first introduction. "Not now, sweetheart. Grandpa is very sick and needs to rest." "Will he get better?" William asked bluntly. "I don't know, honey. He's very old and has been sick for a long time." The boys absorbed the information quietly. The illness of a grandfather they'd never known was an abstract concept, but their concern for their father was real and immediate. That evening, Nathan stopped by briefly. His exhausted expression told the story before he even spoke. "How's your father?" Emily asked, handing him a cup of coffee. "In a coma. The doctors say it's a matter of days, maybe hours." "And your mother? How is she handling all this?" Nathan sighed, running a hand through his hair, a gesture Emily recognized as a sign of stress. Barbara Miller has never been a woman who accepts change easily. She's resistant, to say the least. But for the first time in my life, I'm making decisions without worrying about her approval." Emily nodded, silently admiring Nathan's newfound confidence. The insecure man who had once yielded to his mother's pressure 6 years ago seemed to have disappeared, replaced by a devoted father and a businessman with his own vision. "What about her meeting the boys? Do you still think it's a good idea?" "Honestly, I don't know, but they're my sons and she's the only living grandmother they have. If she truly wants to be part of their lives, I don't feel right stopping her, as long as you're okay with it." His consideration for Emily's opinion didn't go unnoticed. It was another sign of how much Nathan had matured. "We could have lunch next weekend. Something simple, no pressure for the boys," Emily suggested. The meeting with Barbara was surprisingly cordial. The Miller matriarch arrived promptly, dressed elegantly but less severely than usual, carrying 3 identical packages. "I brought gifts for my grandsons," she announced upon entering, her tone leaving no room for refusal. The triplets, curious but slightly intimidated, watched the poised woman from the living room doorway. "Boys, this is Mrs. Barbara, your father's—" "Mother," Emily introduced carefully. "She's your grandmother." Barbara studied the 3 with a critical gaze that soon softened. "They look just like Nathan when he was little," she remarked, a slight tremble in her usually controlled voice. William, always the unofficial spokesman for his brothers, took a step forward. "Hi, Grandma," he said formally, extending his hand like a little adult. The gesture seemed to dismantle Barbara's last defenses. Instead of shaking the offered hand, she bent down and briefly hugged the boy. "Hello, William," she replied, surprising everyone by recognizing him among his brothers at their first meeting. "Your father has told me a lot about you and your brothers." The lunch went better than Emily could have hoped. Barbara was visibly uncomfortable at first, but the boys, especially Ethan with his outgoing personality, quickly broke the ice. By the end of the meal, their grandmother had already promised to take all 3 to see the family home and show them photos of when Nathan was a child. "She was almost pleasant," Emily remarked after Barbara left. Nathan smiled. "I think the boys inherited the same gift you had, disarming the defenses of the formidable Barbara Miller." "Me?" Emily laughed, incredulous. "Yes, you. My mother liked you in the beginning, you know, before she decided I should marry some heiress from a traditional family." The revelation surprised Emily. Throughout their relationship, Barbara had always seemed to merely tolerate her at best. Hard to believe. "It's true. She used to talk about how smart and determined you were. Ironically, those same qualities later made her see you as a threat, someone too strong to be controlled by her." The observation stayed in Emily's mind for days. It was strange to think that the qualities Barbara had scorned were exactly what had allowed Emily to survive and thrive as a single mother. The following weeks brought an increasingly harmonious routine. Nathan attended school events, shared medical responsibilities, and actively participated in decisions about the boys' education. At the psychologist's suggestion, they began alternating weekends, one at Emily's house, the next at Nathan's apartment. The transition wasn't without challenges. The children missed the absent parent no matter where they were, but they gradually adjusted. One Friday evening, while the boys slept, Nathan and Emily talked on his apartment balcony. "I need to tell you something," he said, his serious expression immediately putting Emily on alert. "What's wrong? Something with the boys?" "No, not that. It's about the company." Nathan took a deep breath. "I've decided to step down as president of the construction firm." "What? But you just took control." "Yes, and I'm using that control to do what I should have done years ago, follow my own path. I've appointed a professional CEO, someone who shares my vision for sustainability, and I'm moving to the board. This will give me time to develop my consulting work and, more importantly, to be with the boys." Emily was momentarily speechless. The decision was radical, considering how much Nathan's identity had always been tied to the family business. "Your mother must be furious." Nathan smiled faintly. "Furious would be an understatement. She's talking to lawyers, trying to find some way to reverse my decision. But legally, there's not much she can do." "Are you sure this is what you want?" Nathan looked her in the eyes. I've never been more certain of anything in my life, except maybe—" He hesitated as if weighing his next words. "Except?" "Except that I made the biggest mistake of my life that day at the cathedral." The comment hung in the air between them, heavy with unspoken implications. Emily's heart raced, but she kept her expression neutral. "That was a long time ago, Nathan. I know, and I know I probably destroyed any chance we might have had, but I want you to know I never stopped." He trailed off again. "Well, it doesn't matter now. What matters is that we're managing to be parents together, and that's more than I deserved." That night, after Nathan left her at home, Emily reflected at length on their conversation. The feelings she thought were buried under years of resentment began to resurface, like stubborn plants breaking through concrete. The following Sunday, during lunch at Emily's house, Noah started complaining of chest pain. Immediately, Nathan and Emily exchanged worried glances. "Does it hurt a lot?" Emily asked, trying not to show alarm. "Not too much," Noah replied, but his pale face told a different story. Nathan was already on his feet, grabbing the car keys. "Let's take him to the hospital. Better safe than sorry." The rest of the day was a blur of waiting rooms, tests, and consultations with the pediatric cardiologist. The diagnosis was reassuring but concerning. It wasn't an emergency, but the symptoms indicated the need for medication adjustments and closer monitoring. "We'll need to bring Noah in for weekly checkups for a while," the doctor explained, "and William too, as a precaution." On the way home, with the boys asleep in the back seat, Nathan drove in silence, the tension evident in his clenched jaw. "They'll be fine," Emily assured him, briefly placing her hand on his. "The doctor said it's just a matter of adjusting the medication." "It's my fault, Emily, my faulty genes." "Don't talk like that. No one chooses what they pass on to their children. Besides, the doctor said the condition is perfectly manageable." Nathan sighed heavily. "I know it's irrational, but I can't help thinking, what if I'd been there from the start? Would we have caught it earlier, started treatment sooner? Or not? There's no point dwelling on what-ifs." Emily hesitated before adding, "Besides, you're here now, that's what matters." The look Nathan gave her held both relief and gratitude. For the first time in years, Emily allowed herself to acknowledge what she'd been denying. There was still something between them, buried under layers of hurt and distrust, but undeniably alive. In the weeks that followed, the focus on the boys' health brought Emily and Nathan even closer. Doctor's appointments, research on the heart condition, discussions about diet and physical activity, all of it created an everyday intimacy that bittersweetly reminded them of the partnership they could have had. During one appointment, while waiting for William to undergo an echocardiogram, Nathan broached the subject he'd been rehearsing for days. "Emily, I've been thinking it would be easier for the boys if we lived closer to each other. The constant back and forth between our places is hard on them, especially now with these frequent doctor visits." Emily looked at him skeptically. "What are you suggesting?" "I'm looking for an apartment near your place. Something within walking distance to make logistics easier." The practical consideration of the plan surprised Emily, who had expected something more romantic. The realization that part of her wanted that was unsettling. "I think it's a good idea," she finally replied. A week later, Nathan found the perfect apartment, just 2 blocks from Emily's house, spacious enough for the boys to feel comfortable on weekends, but not so big that it felt empty when he was alone. The geographic proximity brought a new rhythm to their lives. Nathan often had dinner at Emily's after picking the boys up from school. On days when she worked late, he naturally took over parenting duties. Little by little, without fully realizing it, they were functioning like a family. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing, it was Mrs. Margaret who finally voiced the obvious one afternoon, as Nathan helped the boys with their math homework while Emily prepared dinner. "Have you noticed you're practically a couple again?" the housekeeper commented quietly enough that only Emily could hear. "What are you talking about, Margaret?" Emily blushed, chopping vegetables with more force than necessary. "I'm talking about the way you two dance around each other, as if you're, waiting for the other to make the first move. It's almost painful to watch. Emily opened her mouth to protest, but the words wouldn't come. She'd been so focused on maintaining emotional boundaries that she hadn't noticed how porous they'd become. Even if I still had feelings for him, it doesn't mean we should pick up where we left off, she finally said. There's too much history between us, too much pain. And too much joy as well, Margaret pointed out, glancing meaningfully at the triplets laughing with their father in the living room. Sometimes, my dear, forgiveness isn't just a gift we give others, but ourselves. The housekeepers. Words stayed with Emily for days, resurfacing at unexpected moments, when she watched Nathan reading bedtime stories to the boys, when he showed up with coffee from her favorite cafe on mornings of doctor's appointments, when their fingers accidentally brushed while passing the salt at dinner. One particularly lovely Saturday afternoon, Nathan invited the whole family for a picnic in the park. The boys ran across the grass, supervised from a distance, while he and Emily sat under the shade of a large tree. William is finally opening. Up to me, Nathan remarked, watching his eldest son play with his brothers. Yesterday he asked for help with a science project, without me offering first. Emily smiled, sharing his joy. He's the most like me. It takes time for him to trust, but when he does, it's wholeheartedly. Nathan turned his gaze to her, an unspoken question in his eyes. What about you, Emily? Do you think you'll ever trust me again? The direct question caught her off guard. For a moment she considered deflecting with a vague answer, but something in the vulnerability of his expression made her choose honesty. I'm starting to trust. It's not easy, and there are days when I still feel afraid of being hurt again, of the boys being hurt. But I see how you've changed, how hard you're trying, and that means a lot. Nathan absorbed her words in silence. Thank you for your honesty. He hesitated before continuing. I know it's only been a few months since we re-entered each other's lives, and maybe it's too soon to ask, but do you think we could ever try again? Not now, but someday. Emily's heart raced. It was the question she'd been avoiding asking herself. I don't know, Nathan. There's so much to consider, especially the boys. What if we tried and it didn't work? It's already confusing enough for them. I completely understand. He smiled faintly. I just wanted you to know the door is open, if you ever want to walk through it. The moment was interrupted by Ethan, who ran up to them excitedly. Mom, Dad, look what I found. The boy proudly displayed a 4-leaf clover, perfectly intact between his small fingers. These are really rare, you know, he informed them, repeating something he'd likely heard at school. They bring luck. I'm going to keep it forever. When Ethan dashed back to his brothers, Nathan and Emily exchanged a meaningful glance. It's luck, huh? He murmured. Maybe it's a sign. Weeks turned into months and the family dynamic continued to evolve. One particularly busy Sunday, as they prepared for another heart checkup, Noah made an observation that left the adults momentarily speechless. You know, Mom, I think my heart problem did something good. What do you mean, sweetheart? Emily asked, curious. I brought Dad back to us, the boy simply replied, before running off to put on his shoes. That night, after tucking the boys into bed, Emily found Nathan on the porch, where he often stayed before returning to his apartment. I've been thinking a lot about what Noah said today, she began, sitting beside him. About how the heart condition brought you back. Nathan nodded. I wonder how it would have been if we'd met under different circumstances. If I'd seen you on the street or in a restaurant, you probably would have panicked and run away, Emily joked, though both knew there was an uncomfortable truth in it. Probably, he agreed with a faint smile. I was a coward back then. And now? The question hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning. Now? Nathan turned to face her. Now I'd fight for what I love, for the boys, and for you, if you'd give me that chance. Emily felt something break inside her, not her heart, but the carefully built wall around it. I'm scared, Nathan, she admitted softly. Scared to trust, to let myself feel again, to get hurt again. I'm scared too, he confessed. Scared I don't deserve this second chance, scared of letting you and the boys down. But more than that, I'm scared of never trying and always wondering what could have been. When their eyes met, 6 years of separation seemed to collapse into a single moment of clarity. Without planning or discussion, Emily leaned forward just as Nathan did, and their lips met in a gentle, hesitant kiss, like a first kiss, yet filled with shared history. "Let's take it slow, okay?" she whispered as they parted. "For the boys." "And for us." "All the time in the world," Nathan agreed. His face lit up in a way Emily hadn't seen since their youth. The following months were a time of rediscovery. Quiet meetings while the boys were at school, late-night conversations after tucking them in, stolen moments of intimacy that slowly rebuilt the trust between them. Still, they kept their growing closeness hidden from the children, determined not to make anything official until they were sure of their footing. It wasn't a journey without obstacles. There were arguments about the past, about the lies and the 6 lost years. There were moments when Emily's fear threatened to overwhelm her reawakening feelings. There were times when Nathan's guilt made him pull back, convinced he didn't deserve the happiness he'd found with her and the boys. But with each hurdle crossed, their bond grew stronger. The boys' medical checkups showed steady progress, with the heart condition stabilized and well managed. William finally accepted Nathan completely as his father, even confiding in him about things he wouldn't share with his mother. Nathan's new consulting business thrived, giving him a work-life balance he'd never had at Miller Construction. Even Barbara, after months of passive-aggressive resistance, began accepting the new reality. Her bi-weekly visits with her grandsons became moments everyone looked forward to, especially Ethan, who loved hearing stories about his father as a child. One special evening, exactly a year after their reunion at the school, Nathan took Emily to dinner at the restaurant where they'd celebrated their first anniversary so many years ago. "I can't believe it's still here," she remarked, looking around with nostalgia. "I made sure to check," Nathan admitted. "Some things are meant to last, no matter the obstacles." The unspoken message wasn't lost on her. During dinner, they talked about their children, about work, about future plans, just like a normal couple without the shadow of the past darkening every word. At the end of the meal, Nathan held Emily's hands across the table. "This past year has taught me more about love, forgiveness, and family than my entire life before," he began. "I've learned that second chances are rare and precious. That family isn't just about blood ties, but about daily choices to be present, to care, to fight for those we love." Emily felt her eyes well up, anticipating what was coming next. "I'm not asking us to go back to what we were before," Nathan continued. "We were different people then, young and unsure. I'm asking that we continue what we started this year, building something new, stronger, more mature." He pulled a small box from his pocket but didn't open it. "It's not a marriage proposal, not yet. It's a promise that when we're ready, when you feel completely safe with me again, I'll be here, waiting." Emily looked at the closed box, feeling a mix of emotions: gratitude for his patience, relief that there was no pressure, and a growing certainty that eventually she would say yes. "Thank you," she said simply, covering his hand with hers, "for understanding that we need time, and for coming back into our lives." That night, when they returned home where Mrs. Margaret had stayed with the boys, they found a carefully drawn note on the entryway table. "Dear Mom and Dad," it read in the uneven handwriting they recognized as Ethan's, clearly writing on behalf of all three. "We know you went on a romantic date. We talked and decided it would be really cool if you dated again. We promise to behave if you want to live together. Signed, William, Noah, and Ethan, your kids who love you very much." The note, so sincere and hopeful, brought laughter and tears. Apparently they hadn't been as discreet as they thought. "I think we have their blessing," Nathan remarked, hugging Emily from behind as she held the note. "Seems that way." 6 months later, a small wedding ceremony was held in Emily's garden, now officially the family home. Only close friends and family were invited, with the triplets proudly serving as ring-bearers. When the couple exchanged vows, they weren't grand promises of eternal love and perfection, but realistic commitments to daily effort, constant forgiveness, and the conscious choice to love even in difficult moments. "I don't promise perfection," Nathan said, holding Emily's hands. But I promise to learn from my mistakes, to listen when you speak, and never again let fear or pride keep me from the family we've built." "And I don't promise to forget the past," Emily replied, "but I promise not to let it dictate our future. I promise to trust again a little more each day, and to build with you the life we almost let slip away." In the background, 3 identical red-headed boys watched with wide smiles, finally seeing their dream, one they hadn't even known they had until they met their father, come true. A complete family, united not just by blood, but by love that had survived time, hurt, and mistakes. And as Nathan and Emily sealed their commitment with a kiss, to the emotional applause of their guests, the 3 boys exchanged knowing glances, certain that somehow the 4-leaf clover Ethan had carefully kept had truly brought the luck it promised. The end of the story. And you? What did you think of this emotional journey of forgiveness and new beginnings? Share in the comments which moment touched your heart the most. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our next stories of overcoming and love.